Are we on? Check test. 1, 2.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Lane?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing Lane at all.
I can hear Rick.
Crazy. All right, how about now?
Lane, can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
I'm not hearing him, Paul.
Wow. Why not? Good.
I told him we weren't going to have any audio issues tonight. Look what we got going on.
So you should be able to hear everybody now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I got you now. I got you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, let's run with this for a minute while it's working.
Before it dies.
Okay.
How you been? How you been these days?
Hey, I'm doing great. We just had the youth hunt up here in Michigan last week. My son shot his first deer. My 7-year-old boy shot a doe last weekend. Crops are starting to go off. It looks like it's going to be a great year of hunting in Michigan. Fall is finally here.
How's your weather been? Is the temperature starting to cool down a little, or?
It's hot. It was 85 today. We had a storm. It's supposed to drop this week, but a lot of geese are going down. A lot of goose hunters have had luck, but it's still been pretty warm in Michigan.
Yeah, we had upper 90s here yesterday, and then today's high was low 70s, and tomorrow's high is in the high 60s. So it's definitely changing here, and you know that's typical this time of the year. So
95.
anyways, how's school
today.
been, and everything is open and running like normal, and all is well?
Yeah, all is well in Michigan. For about the last 2 years where we live, I live in rural Michigan, and the last 2.5 years, we've really been blessed because we were unmasked probably 2.5, the first end of the pandemic, we were masked. But then when we went back to school, we weren't masked. We've had pretty successful days in school the last 2 years. And I tell you, I'm a principal in a hunting rich community, and they're excited. They're excited to hunt and fish. And we live right on the Great Lakes. So we have a lot of kids that love to fish, a lot of future outdoorsmen.
That's great. Now, we've talked about this before, but you are not only just an author of children's books, you're a great author of children's books because I've read them and they are second to none, really. And you had a series of hunting books, and then you also had a series of fishing books. And now I understand you're starting a series of sports books. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. So I was a fifth grade teacher for a long time. I've been a principal the last 12 years, and there was really always a missing niche for young readers that love the outdoors. A lot of boys read my books. I have 3 daughters and a son, and I have some characters in the books are girls because girls love to hunt too. But there was really a niche missing on the market for adventure books for kids that love to hunt and fish. And when I wrote the first book, Legend of Ghost Buck, it went over so well. I wrote another book, and then from there, it just kind of spawned into a huge blessing. Our fishing books won a gold medal last year for best chapter books, which I'm really proud and excited about. And I just launched some sports books last month in August. I have 3 sports books, and I'm writing a golf book right now.
Well, I have a series of your hunting books, and I cannot wait for I have 2 grandkids, and I'm waiting for them to get old enough that they can read these on their own. But speaking of that, what age frame are your books intended for?
So really 3rd grade they're about a 3.6 reading level, which means beginner readers can do them. We sell most of our books to 4th through 10th grade, probably is the majority of them. I read them to my girls in kindergarten. The books aren't overly complicated. There's a good moral. I really want to tell a good story. I want to get kids excited about the outdoors. And, I grew up, my dad was a taxidermist when I grew up. He doesn't do it professionally anymore, but hunting and fishing was something that we have just so many great memories. And I really wanted kids, because a lot of kids don't have people to take them hunting, and a lot of kids that kind of wonder about the outdoors. I really wanted to write some books that really got that curiosity going for kids.
But you're right, because it's an easy read. But not only is it an easy read, and myself as an adult reading a kid's book, it captivated my attention throughout the whole book, and that's what I really like. Now, do you have a favorite yourself, or are you just a fan of all your books? Certainly are, but do you have a favorite?
I get that question asked all the time. It's kind of asking you who your favorite kid is. I mean, it depends on who's there, right? I, Legend of the Ghost Buck will always be special to me. It was my first book. That one sells really well because deer hunting is so huge. Each book, there's a piece of me in it. The Day It Rained Ducks is really special because I went on a duck hunt with my dad that was kind of like that. A little bit of my kids are in each book, a little adventure. So, I mean, Legend of the Ghost Buck will always be really, really important to me. But, The Lost Deer Camp, the last book in the hunting series, I always wanted to write about a deer camp. I've always been fascinated, living in Michigan, we have the world's best deer camps in November. And I always wanted to write a book that really took kids on an adventure and what a deer camp was like. So that book, but they're all special. But I'd have to say, if I had to pick one, probably Legend of the Ghost Buck.
So I was going to next ask you what's your inspiration in writing your books, but you kind of touched on that a little bit. It's your own experiences. It's your kids. It's your dad. So it's a lot of those. But as you wrote the first couple of books, did it become more natural for you to kick? In other words, did your third and fourth book get written a lot faster than your first and second one, or does it come more natural?
Oh, absolutely. Just like when you started turkey calling, by about the 10th bird you got, you're really getting good at it, and you're hitting those high chirps. And yeah, I mean, even now, when I'm writing a book, and last year we had a 4-day weekend, and I wrote one of the sports books in 4 days. Now, it doesn't always go that well, but I always map out the books. But, finding the adventure part's the easy part. The editing and revising is what takes more time. Once I have a plot and what kind of like the animal we're going after and what they're going to learn, that's probably once I have that, that's probably the biggest stumbling block, which really isn't one. I can write a book pretty fast, but prior to writing books, I wrote for hunting magazines. I worked at a newspaper, so I really feel like all that was sharpening my saw, getting me ready to write books.
Yeah, and you wrote one of your hunting books was a turkey hunting related book, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So
I knew
and you have
that one.
You have such a wide spectrum. Now, what do you have two sports books right now? What are those?
I have three. The football book just came out. I have a baseball book, a basketball book, and a football book, and I'm writing a golf and soccer book. And adventure books, good morals, exciting. I've coached for 15, 20 years. Another aspect of things that I enjoy. And I think kids, we've gotten great feedback. Actually, the sports books hit #1 on Amazon bestsellers, which is really cool. And the neat thing is, there's a lot of kids, I grew up loving to play football and basketball and hunting. And a lot of them cross culture with each other. But we've actually got some people that have read my sports books that have transitioned and read the hunting books who have never been hunting, but like the books. So that's been another great avenue to get youth out. Hunting and fishing have been the transition from reading the sports books and then reading the hunting books.
That was something else I was going to ask you. I know you go to a lot of sporting goods sport shows, and you've spoke at shows and things like that. But you had told me one time that a lot of people that read your books or have read your books aren't necessarily hunters or fishermen, and vice versa. And some of the parents would come in and see these books and buy them, and then get back to you afterwards, say, my son or my daughter doesn't hunt, but they read this and now they want to go hunting. You hear that a lot, don't you?
Absolutely. And I had no idea. I mean, Legend of the Ghost Buck came out probably 11 years ago. The first book came out. And at that time, I had no idea where culture would be at where it is today, especially with how people view hunting in the outdoors. So I think I was so happy when those came out because it really bridged the gap. I had lots of people that said, you know what, I never really looked at hunting through the lens of a boy and his grandpa. I never really realized there's more to hunting. And they've read all the books and they have a different version. They may not like to hunt. I've had people that have said, you know what, after reading your book, now my son wants to hunt. So that's great too. But I've also had a lot of people who are, on the fence about it, read it and go, you know what, that actually was a pretty good story. And I could see why kids enjoy that,
Right. Now, you and I both feel it's the most important thing that we can do is get kids involved in the outdoors. But how important is that? You being a principal, because you see it from the teacher's side, but the kids that I feel, in my opinion, kids raised in the outdoors have a better respect for life. I truly believe that. Do you see that in the school system? I mean, do you see that?
every day. So, like I said, I live on the beautiful shores. We're not far from Lake Huron, and so many of our students, that's a common bond that I share, even with the tough students who school's tough for. Not every kid's going to be great at algebra. We have kids that are in welding, construction, different things, but boy, I tell you, one of the common bonds that tie us together are hunting in the outdoors. We do an outdoors club at our school. We put up pictures. Anything they hunt, fish, collect, if they go mushroom collecting, anything they do in the outdoors, morels. And I think we had 45 kids put a picture of them with a deer, a bear, or something last year. 45 kids. And the kids that didn't wish they were on the board. So for me, it's a real common bond. It's a way that I can connect with kids. It's a way that I can get kids to know that I care about them. There's a common language among hunters. um, Outdoorsmen always find a way to connect with outdoorsmen. Wherever you go, if you're on a plane, wherever you're at, once people know that, they see some camouflage or you show them a picture of a deer, there's this commonality that exists. And I feel very blessed because that's something that I use to connect with kids for sure. And it's really neat. I had a kid the other day that, he'd have been in fifth grade when the book came out, and he was talking to me and he said, I said, well, what's your favorite book? And he said, well, you wouldn't know. It's about this ghost buck. And, I said, who wrote it? He said, well, Lane Walker. Well, I'm Mr. Walker at school, so they don't know any different. And I said, that's me. Look at the picture. And he was amazed. He's like, oh my gosh, you're my favorite author. I can't believe you're my principal. So I don't think I'm going to have any discipline problems with him the rest of the year. But it's a really cool thing. And now what's happened, with the fishing books, Rick, we're selling books. We're selling all over the world. So I'm getting requests from travel, just, talking about recruitment and what the advantages are of the outdoors. But I try to do it in the books too. So if I'm not there, they can get a piece of it.
Well, I mean, that is fantastic. Speaking of morel mushrooms, how was your mushroom season this past spring? Was it good? Ours was not that great here.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. My dad and brother go morel hunting. They get excited. We had a real weird. I mean, my food plot was looking great. Then it got hot. We experienced a lot of the same things with Iowa. We get a drought and we plant at the wrong time, and our food plots are in trouble. But we had a pretty wet spring, so there were some morels. Good turkey season. That's still on my bucket list, is to turkey hunting with Rick White. So we're gonna make that happen one of these years. I got some turkeys waiting for you for sure.
We have got to do that. We've been talking about that for about 10 years now. So we got to do that. You got to get a hold of me.
That's on my bucket list.
All right. Well, we got to make that happen.
That's on my bucket list. The cool thing about, I grew up watching the book. I sent you the books because I just said, hey, thanks for all you do. Here's some books, and from there you read them, and I got to come down and stay with you. And we visited down in Iowa and got to know you, and you're just as real. And so for me, when you read my books, that was kind of a crowning moment for me, Rick. That was kind of just some more encouragement for me to keep writing.
Gosh, I appreciate that. That's great. And you said your turkey season was good this year. It was, and you got the kids out.
Yeah,
I think, didn't you?
Yeah, well, here my nephew got one opening day. My brother, my dad, everybody. One of my daughters is big in the softball. She's a pitcher. My other daughter's big in the track. My younger daughter does track and softball, and I coach my son's AU. So I didn't get out as much, as I used to. But I'm going to retire someday, and when I retire, I'm going to try to take the Rick White trail all through the Midwest and just hunt and meet people, eat good food, shoot a bird in Indiana, then go to Iowa, then go all over. But turkey hunting, I mean, Michigan is such a beautiful state. If you come in the winter, you might not think so. But if you come in the fall, the spring, or the summer, it's beautiful. And the winter's beautiful in its own right, but it's pretty harsh. But our spring turkey season is beautiful, and we have a ton of birds up here.
Yeah. Well, let me first tell you that you have to have, this is a must, you have to have a very understanding wife in order to get to do what I do. So,
Well, mine
yeah,
kind of
so
married. She kind of knew that when we got married. I mean, that was part of the deal.
yeah, no, I agree. Hey, listen, I'm just kind of getting ready, guys. This is the Alpen hat. Now, you guys all know what this means. Lane has has donated a series of his fishing books for us. The last time we gave away his hunting books. Well, this time we're going to give away a series of his fishing books. There's 5 of those, I think. Is that right?
Yep, there's 5 fishing books, and the last one, they've been out probably a full year now, and we found out last year they won a gold medal book award, which to me says, I mean, that's pretty cool to have an outdoor book win a best chapter book a gold medal. That's pretty rare. So they're good books. They're adventurous. You're gonna love them. I hope whoever gets them reads them and enjoys them.
Yeah, and I gotta get me a set. We'll have to talk about that at some point. But anyways, you guys got about 5 minutes. Again, numbers 1 through 50. Just pick a number, write it down, and here in about 5 minutes, I'll draw one of the numbers out of this hat, 1 to 50, and we'll give away a series of his Lane's fishing books. So what's after your sports books? I mean, I know that'll take you for another year or so, but you're always into writing something. Have you got some ideas, or maybe you don't want to share
I
those at
am,
this
and
point?
you're going to absolutely love what the next book's going to be. My dad's a wild outdoorsman. He's killed brown bear, caribou, elk. His whole life is hunting and fishing. And this summer, I've had him record some of his stories. And just like the old Fred Bear books and the stories, I have a book coming out. I think it's going to be called, and I'll tell you here at first, nobody knows, The Last Woodsman. And it's really, my dad's a real old school. He loves the pure joy of hunting. And I'm going to chronicle all his adventures from the early 60s when he was a little boy all the way through to his last moose hunt last year in Alaska. And it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be it's going to have pictures. I grew up reading the autobiography of Fred Bear, Papa Bear, those kind of books. And as a kid, having those in my hunting shack on November 14th, the day before gun season, reading that book and getting excited. Well, by this time next year, I'm going to have an adult book that's going to be a bestseller. That's what's next, and I'm excited.
That sounds great. I've had so many people over the years come to me and say, you need to write a book, and I really wish that I had your talent and could write books. I can't. I've got some great stories, and maybe one day I'll sit down and jot a few notes down or something. And but I'm just not a writer. But there's so many things you experience. I mean, just on one hunt, you go on one hunt, and there's so many memories you have. Well, if you've been doing it a whole lifetime like your dad has, he's got more stories that he's forgotten than he remembers. I mean, because I know I do, and every once in a while, someone will, I'll pop into somebody and say, "Hey, remember that hunt we went on?" I'm like, "No," and then start to talk about it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that's great." So, I
Yeah,
mean, reading books is just the camaraderie when I'm in camp with other people is a huge reason that I like to go hunting. I mean, that's part just as much of the hunt as it is, shooting something, tagging something. It's all that. And when you're reading books, it brings back not only are you getting the entertainment out of the book, but it'll bring back a memory that's similar to what's in the book a lot of times.
absolutely. My dad, I mean, he fell through the ice and almost died ice fishing before. Like I said, he's hunted brown bear. He was a gunner's mate in the Navy and used to fish for sharks. I mean, the book is going to be fantastic. And there's a bunch of reasons. I mean, everybody will come over to our house in the fall and just sit around the fire and listen to my dad tell some of his stories. But one thing that I mean, I want to preserve his legacy. But another thing is he loves hunting. So like, I mean, he gets excited if he shoots a nice 6 point. He is thrilled. He loves the art and the thrill of the hunt. And I've never met anybody that's so. I mean, he'll hunt. He's 73 and he hunts every day of the season and loves it. And he'll call me and tell me, "Oh, I saw 3 does." Okay, cool, Dad. Here's what happened, And he is a purist and he hunts for the right reasons. And um, like I said, I had no idea what the culture would be like, when I first wrote The Legend of the Ghost Buck and where we're at now. And I really think that I really wanted to be a tool for outdoorsmen. If you're a grandparent, if you're a mom and a dad, if you want your kids to really know the truth and what hunting can do, have them read Legend of the Ghost Buck. Have them read The Hunt for Scarface, because they are just books. I want those books to really see all the good and what hunting can really do for your soul.
Yeah, I've been hunting since I was a kid, and my best memories of my dad are all primarily hunting stories. And back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, I look at the 80s now, and that was a long time ago. Well, it seems like just yesterday, but we things were different back then, as it would be. But nowadays we've got hunters arguing amongst themselves. Like the traditional bow hunters don't like the compound bow hunters, and the gun hunters don't like the bow hunters, and the bow hunters don't like the gun hunters. And you hear some of that. The bottom line is, we as hunters have to get along. You can hunt with whatever you want to hunt with, that's legal, and you can shoot whatever kind of deer you want that's legal. And everybody out there, every hunter, if you're truly a hunter, should be happy for that person. And we sometimes miss some of that nowadays, and I hate to say that, but we do, and we got to get
That's
back,
the
because we
truth.
don't have as many hunters nowadays as what we used to have. The numbers are going down, the age is getting higher.
And that's the truth, and that's part of a liberal media as well. I mean, they want that picture to be, oh, hunting's not relevant anymore. You can buy your own food, and it's really tearing apart the family. Because, like you said, my greatest memories are with my dad and my brother hunting ducks, going to deer camp. I mean, so my thing is, I wanted my books to be neutral enough that someone that didn't hunt. But if you read them, there's a lot of hunting truth in them. So people that hunt know, like, oh, this is accurate. If the buck's making a rub, everything's accurate. But for someone that doesn't, I hope it intrigues their mind enough to go, well, you know what? I can kind of see where that would be kind of fun and exciting. I can see why people do that, you know? And so far that's been the response. And I'm, like I said, I'm thankful. When I retire, I really just plan on doing a lot of traveling. I still want to see my kids' stuff, but I plan on just going and talking hunting recruitment and getting kids excited and getting families excited about being together.
Yeah. Now, before we draw for these books here and get towards the end of the show here, what do you, probably being in the school system, you probably come across some kids that whose parents maybe don't hunt, that would like to get involved with hunting? And what are some of the recommendations for people, and even adults that haven't hunted but would like to? What's kind of the avenue to get them involved? And I know there's hunting groups, and they could hook up with a friend, but what do you tell people?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something that I've answered quite a bit. I tell them to find somebody they trust that they know that hunts, and just go out once. If you take a kid hunting, you really got to make it so the kid's comfortable. I remember when I was a kid, so in high school, I had football, girls. I mean, there was a lot of things going on. But when my dad would duck hunting, sometimes I locked my door and, Dad, not today, and he kept knocking, Rick. And every time he knocked, he said, "Son, will be worth it. You got to get up. There's a north wind. You got to get up." And I'd fight, and he'd, "Hey, I'll get you a Mountain Dew and a donut." Now that perked my interest a little bit in high school. So we got up, and on the way up, he'd stop and get me. And we had life conversations on the way up duck hunting. And every time I got up, I never once regretted it. Never one time did I regret it once I got up and went hunting. And I would just encourage him, when you take a kid hunting, my son's 7, and he's all over the place. He is full of energy. So I try to get in a spot where he can move a little bit. I don't want him to think hunting is not fun, is boring. So I try to give him room on the floor of our blind. I try to take things with him to draw, to color with. I try to talk with them and do fun things, but find somebody that you know and trust that loves to hunt. Have them spend a day with you. Get a bow, have them shoot a bow at a target for the first time and feel what that feels like to watch that arrow hit that target. Get a BB gun. I started my son with a BB gun. Just walk in the woods and shoot at things safely, but just let him get the feel of what it's like to really be a hunter. That's what I would say. The biggest problem, I think, the reverse side of that is, I think too many adults care about themselves. I think too many adults get mad if a kid shoots a big buck. And it makes me sad, because if we don't train the next generation to observe hunting, fishing, it will not be this. It's going to be a different version of. So the best thing you can do is, and any hunter that's listening to this that says, hey, I don't have any kids or relatives, find some kids. They're everywhere. Talk to your friends' kids.
Right.
Take time away from your life to help someone else.
Yeah, you know, well said, because all of what you just talked about are some of the same things that I talk about day in and day out. My son, I used to bribe him with candy and I get him out. Well,
Yeah.
I don't have to drag him with candy anymore. He loves to hunt. I did my job. He's a great hunter. He's taken on the legacy. So anyways, guys, has everybody got their numbers in? Paul, I'm going to call on Paul to jump in and see what we've got for numbers.
I believe the numbers are in.
All right. I am going to draw one. I've got my hat here. I'm hoping you're seeing it okay. And I've got it up here, and I'm just going to draw out one piece of paper right here. I have it. And it is, got to turn it around here. It is 18. 18, if you can see that okay.
Huh?
18. I was making sure it wasn't an 81, but it is 18.
18.
And Rick, just so you know, these are going to be, I'm going to mail these books myself. I'm going to autograph them. So,
oh, good.
These are going to be good books.
Good.
Here. So we've got Ron Toth got a 29. Billy Burris got a 38. Joel Bates, 13.
Yeah.
Karen Dallas, 34. And Phil Smith got a 20.
20?
And that's about... And
Is
that's
that the closest?
20? Yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Phil Smith, and I know Phil, and he has young kids. He will get a ton of use out of these. In fact, not only
Awesome.
did Phil win this tonight, but he's been pretty lucky because we give something away every week, and he's won a couple of times in the past. So you better go out and buy yourself a lotto ticket. So anyways, Phil Smith, Lane, I will get you his information. Lane will autograph those, so you're really getting something special. And Phil, I expect you to get back to us and let us know what you think of those books. But anyways, guys, we're getting towards the end of the evening. I know I've got dinner. Lane's probably got dinner. He just got home. And Lane, I want to personally thank you for being on the show. You great guest, and it's always good to see you.
Anytime. Rick, you call me, it's a done deal. You tell me when and where, and it's a done deal. And like I said, we're going to
do it. We got to stay in touch a little more often. And folks that are listening, we're changing the format of the show a little bit. We're not going to be doing it every week now. It's just a burden for a lot of us, and hunting season's around the corner, and trying to do this every Wednesday night is really tough for me. So we've got some new things right around the corner. We've got a couple different shows and some new structures, and I'll get with everybody and we'll let you know how it's going. So there will probably not be a show next weekend or next Wednesday. But anyways, Lane, thank you. I appreciate it. Great guest as always. And folks, certainly appreciate everybody that's hung in with us and watched the show. And thanks for coming along. We'll talk to you in the near future. Good luck this fall season. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.